Today's lesson will focus on how to find the equation of a line when all you have are 2 points that you want to connect. And you'll be using this when you're doing your lines on your performance test when you don't have a horizontal or vertical line. Just as a side note, not all equations will have a nice y-intercept, meaning you can have a line that when it crosses the y-axis, it hits it somewhere that is not a nice whole number. So we need to be able to figure out that number, especially when you want specific points. So let's go ahead and see that, how we're going to do that. So first thing you always want to do is find the slope of the line. So we know how to find the slope of a line. We subtract the y's on the top, we subtract the x's in the same order on the bottom. Or you can just graph them and then count rise over run. Second step is to substitute the slope that you find and one of your points. It doesn't matter if it's the first one or the second one of the 2 points. And you're going to take the slope and one of the points and you're going to plug them into this equation over here at the end. So you're going to substitute 3 numbers, the y1, the m, and the x1. We're going to substitute those numbers and we're going to solve for y. And once we do that, we have our equation. Now, just as a side note, not all equations are going to have whole numbers. You're going to end up with fractions sometimes, so you'll have to deal with that. Last thing is we call this equation right here, it's called the point-slope equation because you need a point and a slope to use it. Let's go ahead and start seeing how this works. We'll start off with some easy ones. So number 1, we're going to go ahead and find our slope. We know how to do that. We've done that many times before. We're going to go m equals, remember we subtract the y's on the top and we subtract the x's on the bottom. So my y values are 7 and -7. So I'm going to put 7 on one side, -7 in parentheses on the other side. My x values are the following. They are -5 and 2. We're going to go ahead and subtract those, -5 and +2. And from here I'm just going to simplify as before. 7 plus 7 over -5, -2 gives me -7. That's going to give me 14 divided by -7, which gives me -2. So I've got my slope. That was step 1. Step 2 is to plug it into the formula. Formula is y minus y1, m, x minus x1. Now we have to pick one of the 2 points, so we need to either pick the first point or the second point. I usually just go with the first one, so I'm just going to go with the first point here. I'm going to go ahead and plug in the -5 and the 7 into my equation. So it's y minus, and I'm going to plug in the 7 here. And actually I don't need parentheses for this one, 7. I'm going with this point right here again. Equals m, my m is over here, my slope. That's 2. X minus my x value from the point, which is -5. I'm putting parentheses because it's a negative. We're just going to have to simplify this and get y by itself. So it's y minus 7, 2, x plus 5. I'm going to use a distributive property, 2x plus 10. And then I'm going to now move the 7 to the right side. It combines with the 10. And my equation is y equals 2x plus 17. And I have the equation that connects these 2 points. So this is one of the examples where we get nice whole numbers. We're not always going to have this as being the case. So let's go ahead and try number 2. So let's start with the slope. M, subtract the x's. The y is on top, so 0 and 6. So I'm going to have 0 and 6 subtracted here. On the bottom, we're going to subtract the x's, which are 2 and -2. So 2 and -2. So top, we get 0 minus 6, which is -6. Bottom, we're going to get 2 plus 2, because the double negative is positive. We get 4. We're going to reduce this fraction. This is one of those cases where we don't always have nice numbers. So it's going to be -3 over 2. So we have -3/2 for our slope. Now we're going to go and type it into, or put it into, the equation y minus y1, m x minus x1. So we have the slope, which is -3 over 2. Now we're going to plug in one of the points. I'm going to pick the first one. I'll stick to the first one every time. So I'm going to take this first point, 2, 0, and it's probably the better one to plug in because it has a 0. So the y value is 0. The x value is 2. Now I'm just going to go ahead and simplify this all the way through. Y minus 0 is just y, so y is by itself. Distributive property, negative 3/2 times x is negative 3/2 x, minus 3/2 times 2. So I'll do this here on the side here, in case you want to see times negative 2. So we put it over 1. 3 times 2 is 6, over 2, which gives me 3. So when I do the distribution, we get a positive 3. And I'm done with that one. All right, let's go ahead and move on to number 3. Let's start with the slope again. So we're going to start, slope is m equals, subtract the y, subtract the x's. My y's are negative 3 and 8. My x's are 1 and 4. And when I subtract these, I get negative 11. Because they're both negative, they add, and negative 3. That simplifies to positive 11/3. I'm going to plug this into my formula, the point slope formula. And if you want to skip this step, you can. Put y minus m is 11/3. X minus. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and use, as before, I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to use the first point, 1, negative 3. So 1 goes on the x value, and negative 3 goes on the y value. So let's simplify y plus 3. Distribute the 11/3. We're going to get 11/3 x. 11/3 times 1 is just 11/3. And now I'm going to get y by itself by subtracting 3. So I'm going to have y equals 11/3 x minus whatever that is. So I'm going to do it here on the side. 11/3 negative minus 3. I'm going to put it over 1. I don't have common denominators. I need to get common denominators, which is going to be using the number 3, which means I'm going to multiply this one by 3 on the top and 3 on the bottom. That's going to give me 9/3. So now I have common denominators. I'm going to combine them. We get negative 20/3. So this is my work to get this number here, 20/3. And I have my equation of the line that goes through the 2 points given. Last one, just one more for practice. Slope is subtraction of the y's over subtraction of the x's. Y's are 1 and 4. X's are 2 and 7. We have negative 3 and negative 5, which is just 3/5. We're going to go with the equation y minus y1 equals m, which is 3/5, x minus x1. So I'm going to go ahead and use the first point, 2, 1. So 2 goes here, 1 goes here. We're going to distribute the property here. So we have y minus 1 equals 3/5 x minus, I'm going to multiply 3/5 times 2. Remember, there's an invisible 1 over the 2. So 3 times 2 is 6. 5 times the 1 on the bottom is just 5. I'm going to add the 1 over. I have cancel. Y equals 3/5 x. And now we're going to combine negative 6/5 with 1. So we got to get common denominators just like we did earlier. So I'm going to have to do it somewhere, let's say, let's see where I can squeeze it in. We'll do here on the side, 6/5. Let's go another color just to make it darker. So 6/5, which is negative, plus 1, and I'm going to put it over 1. I'm going to multiply this by 5 on the top and on the bottom. So I get negative 6 over 5 with 5 over 5, which is really just a 1. And if I combine those, I'm going to get negative 1 on the top and 5 on the bottom. So this is going to be minus 1 over 5. Final answer. All right, so this is a general idea. Find your slope, use a slope formula. Then once you have your slope, you plug it into the point slope formula, which is here. And then you pick a random point from the 2 that are given to you, generally the first one. And then you just solve for y. And that's how you get your equation in slope-intercept form. So you may have to use this equation when you're doing your performance test if you want to get specific points to work out for your picture. So go ahead and do the 8 practice problems and continue with your performance task.